title, he was carried to heaven by a chariot of fire, unveiling the miraculous life of Elijah in a dry and arid land under the scorching sun of Gilead. There emerged a man destined to become one of the greatest prophets in the history of mankind. To this day, his name was Elijah, the Tishbite, who needed no written chronicles for his fame to spread. His story spoke louder than the achievements of many kings. In the 9th century before Christ, Elijah shone like a beacon of truth, challenging kings and reviving faith in a kingdom plunged into shadows. Elijah's relevance in the divine plan was unquestionable, foretold in Malachi 4-5, "Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." This prophecy echoed in the hearts of all waiting for the return of this messenger of God. His emergence, shrouded in mystery, only reinforced his enigmatic figure. Although the Bible states his origin from Gilead, little is known about his family or his roots, which only increased curiosity about this prophet. Elijah was not just a man of words. His physical endurance was remarkable. The Bible recounts in 1 Kings 17-1 his challenging words to Ahab, announcing a great drought by his word. His act of running ahead of Ahab's chariot from Mount Carmel to Jezreel evidences his vigorous physical condition. His journey was marked by powerful acts and divine interventions. After confronting Ahab, God led him to the brook Chariot, where he was miraculously sustained by ravens. With the brook dried up, the divine command led him to Zarephath in Sidon, where a widow welcomed him. As prophesied in Luke 4:26, there Elijah demonstrated God's power, miraculously providing continuous food. In Luke 17:8-10, we find a parable that reflects the humility and duty of the servant, echoing Elijah's journey, who, despite being a great prophet, always remained a faithful servant to God. Elijah's story takes us on a path filled with faith and miracles, from the valleys of Gilead to the ends of Samaria and Galilee, bringing eternal lessons of obedience and trust in the Lord. Imagine the scene. Dust devils dancing across the parched landscape, the sun a relentless hammer against the skull. This was Elijah's world, a world teetering on the brink of spiritual oblivion. The kingdom of Israel, under the reign of Ahab and the influence of his pagan queen Jezebel, had largely abandoned the worship of Yahweh, the one true God, for the seductive allure of Baal worship. Fertility rites, idol worship, and moral decay had become rampant, threatening to extinguish the flame of faith altogether. It was into this bleak context that Elijah burst forth, a rough-hewn prophet with a fiery spirit and an unshakable conviction in the power of God. He was a man of the wilderness, comfortable in solitude, and unafraid to confront the highest powers. His clothing was simple, his diet sparse, and his message uncompromising. Turn back to God or face the consequences. Elijah's confrontation with Ahab in 1 Kings 17 is a pivotal moment. He doesn't mince words. He declares a drought upon the land, a drought that will last until he speaks the word. This wasn't merely a prediction. It was a pronouncement, a demonstration of the power vested in him by God. The drought was a direct challenge to Baal, the Canaanite storm god, who was believed to control the rain and fertility. By shutting off the heavens, Elijah was effectively declaring that Yahweh was the true God, the one who held the power of life and death in his hands. God's provision for Elisha at the brook Chariot is a testament to his unwavering care for his servants. Ravens, typically scavengers, become messengers of divine provision, bringing bread and meat to Elijah each morning and evening. This miraculous sustenance underscores the fact that God can use the most unlikely sources to meet our needs when we are obedient to his will. The drying up of the brook Chariot forces Elijah to move on, leading him to Zarephath, a town in Phoenicia, a region known for its Baal worship. This seemingly random relocation is actually a strategic move by God, setting the stage for another powerful demonstration of his sovereignty. Elijah's encounter with the widow of Zarephath is a beautiful illustration of faith in the face of scarcity. The widow is destitute, preparing her last meal for herself and her son, fully expecting to die of starvation afterward. Yet, when Elijah asks her for a cake of bread, she obeys, trusting in his promise that her jar of flour will not be used up and her jug of oil will not run dry until the drought ends. This act of faith is rewarded with a miracle that sustains the widow, her son, and Elijah throughout the long years of the drought. It's a powerful reminder that God honors those who trust in him, even when circumstances seem impossible. The widow's faith is further tested when her son falls ill and dies. In her grief, She blames Elijah, accusing him of bringing divine judgment upon her. Elijah, however, responds with compassion and intercedes on behalf of the boy, crying out to God and stretching himself out on him 3 times. Miraculously, the boy's life is restored, and the widow's faith is reaffirmed. She declares, "Now I know that you are a man of God and that the word of the Lord from your mouth is the truth." This miracle not only demonstrates God's power over life and death, but also serves as a sign to the surrounding community, revealing the truth about Elijah and the God he serves. The narrative shifts to the growing crisis in Samaria, where the drought has reached its peak. Ahab, desperate to find pasture for his livestock, sends his trusted servant Obadiah to scout the land. Obadiah, a devout believer who has secretly protected God's prophets from Jezebel's wrath, encounters Elijah and is terrified. He fears that Ahab will kill him if he reports Elijah's presence, and then Elijah disappears. Elijah, however, assures Obadiah that he will present himself to Ahab. This is a crucial turning point, setting the stage for the dramatic confrontation on Mount Carmel. Ahab's accusation that Elijah is the troubler of Israel is ironic, as it is Ahab's own idolatry that has brought the drought upon the land. Elijah boldly refutes this charge and challenges Ahab to gather all of Israel and the 450 prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel for a contest to determine who is the true God. The scene on Mount Carmel is one of the most dramatic in the Old Testament. Elijah, standing alone against hundreds of Baal prophets, presents a clear choice to the people. How long will you waver between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. The people, however, remain silent, unwilling to commit themselves. Elijah then proposes a test. 2 bulls will be prepared as sacrifices, but no fire will be lit. The God who answers by sending fire to consume the sacrifice will be declared the true God. The Baal prophets go first, and from morning till noon, they call on Baal, dancing, chanting, and even cutting themselves in a frenzy of religious fervor, but there is no response. Elijah mocks them, suggesting that Baal may be busy or sleeping, or perhaps needs to be awakened. The Baal prophets become increasingly desperate, but their efforts are futile. In the late afternoon, Elijah takes his turn. He rebuilds the altar of the Lord, which has been torn down, using 12 stones to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. He prepares the bull as a sacrifice and then orders that for large jars of water be poured over the altar, soaking the wood, the sacrifice, and the surrounding ground. He repeats this process 3 times, ensuring that there is no possibility of trickery. Then, Elijah prays a simple but powerful prayer, asking God to reveal himself to the people, so that they may know that he is the true God and that Elijah is his servant. Immediately, fire flashes down from heaven, consuming the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, the water, and even the dust around the altar. The people are awestruck and fall prostrate, crying out, "The Lord, he is God! The Lord, he is God!" Elijah then orders the people to seize the Baal prophets, and he leads them down to the Kishon Valley, where they are slaughtered. This act of judgment is a necessary step in cleansing the land of idolatry and restoring the worship of Yahweh. With the victory on Mount Carmel complete, Elijah turns his attention to the drought. He tells Ahab, "Go, eat and drink, for there is the sound of a heavy rain." While Ahab feasts, Elijah climbs to the top of Mount Carmel and bows down to the ground, praying fervently for rain. He sends his servant to look toward the sea, but there is nothing to be seen. 7 times the servant returns with the same report. Finally, on the 7th time, the servant sees a small cloud rising from the sea, no bigger than a man's hand. Elijah knows that this is the sign he has been waiting for, and he sends his servant to warn Ahab to return to Jezreel before the rain stops him. Soon, the sky is black with clouds, the wind rises, and a torrential downpour begins, ending the long and devastating drought. Elijah's victory on Mount Carmel, however, is when Ahab tells Jezebel what has happened and how Elijah has slaughtered her prophets. She is furious and sends a message to Elijah, threatening to kill him by the same time the next day. Elijah, fearing for his life, flees into the wilderness, traveling south into the land of Judah. Discouraged and exhausted, he collapses under a broom tree and prays that God would take his life. He feels alone and defeated, convinced that his efforts have been in vain. But God has not abandoned Elijah. An angel appears to him, bringing him food and water and instructing him to get up and eat. for the journey is too great for him. Elijah obeys and finds himself miraculously strengthened. He travels for 40 days and 40 nights until he reaches Mount Horeb, the mountain of God, where Moses received the 10 Commandments. There, in a cave, God speaks to Elijah, asking him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Elijah pours out his heart to God, expressing his zeal for the Lord and his frustration with the idolatry of Israel. He feels like he is the only one left who is faithful to God, and he fears for his life. God then reveals himself to Elijah in a powerful but unexpected way. He does not come in a mighty wind, or an earthquake, or a fire, but in a gentle whisper. This reminds Elijah that God's power is not always manifested in dramatic displays, but often in quiet and subtle ways. God then commissions Elijah to anoint Hazael as king of Aram, Jehu as king of Israel, and Elisha as his successor. He also reveals to Elijah that there are 7,000 faithful Israelites who have not bowed down to Baal. This revelation encourages Elijah, reminding him that he is not alone and that God's work will continue. Elijah's anointing of Elisha is a significant event, marking the beginning of a new chapter in his ministry. He finds Elisha plowing in a field and throws his cloak around him, symbolizing the transfer of the prophetic office. Elisha immediately leaves his work and follows Elisha, becoming his servant and disciple. Elijah's final act is his ascension into heaven in a whirlwind, riding in a chariot of fire drawn by horses of fire. Elisha witnesses this miraculous event and cries out, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel." He picks up Elijah's cloak, which has fallen to the ground, and returns to the Jordan River, where he strikes the water with the cloak and miraculously parts it, demonstrating that the power of God is now upon him. Elijah's life is a powerful example of faith, courage, and obedience. He was a man who dared to stand alone for God, challenging the powers of his day and calling the people of Israel back to repentance. His story continues to inspire believers today, reminding us that God is faithful to those who trust in him, and that he can use ordinary people to do extraordinary things. If you found this exploration of Elijah's life inspiring and insightful, please support our channel, Principe da Paz Zero. Subscribe to stay updated on our latest videos, and don't forget to like this video to help us reach more people with these powerful Bible stories. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you abundantly.